From Deontay Wilder blaming his ring walk costume for being too heavy, to Carl Froch who said a volcanic eruption ruined his fight, here are 10 of the most insane excuses boxers have used after a loss. Starting with Deontay Wilder blaming his literal clothing. There are plenty of wild excuses that boxers use to cover up their bruised egos. Deontay Wilder is one of them, and has a particularly difficult time accepting that he lost, especially when it came to his loss against Tyson Fury in 2020. When Fury messed up his unbeaten record, it looks like he messed up a lot more than that. Deontay presented a long list of justifications. One of them involved blaming his ring walk costume. Apparently, his ring walk costume was too heavy and it zapped out the energy he had gathered for his fight against Fury.
We are set for the most anticipated heavyweight championship fight in a generation.
But that's not all. Another argument he presented was a bit of a low ball by accusing his opponent, the Gypsy King, of glove tampering. He claimed that Fury put some egg weights in his gloves, which hit his head so hard that it left a dent in it. When that excuse clearly didn't work, Wilder claimed that his drinks were spiked with muscle relaxers. To make this look even more believable, he fired his assistant Mark Breland for letting that happen. And then, finally, he accused the referee of the fight, Kenny Bayless, of being biased and handling the bout unfairly. But the fans quickly caught on to his lies, and after he was brutally defeated in the trilogy match against Fury, he accepted the defeat gracefully. He didn't really come up with any other excuse that time around and admitted that Fury was the better player, so he ended up growing as a person. But some boxers just really can't let it go, like Alexander Povetkin sticking with the ridiculous theory behind his epic loss. Povetkin was on a career high back in 2012 with a series of great wins against the biggest names in the game. But for some reason, he massively underperformed against the German boxer Marco Huck. And that upset his fans so much that they demanded an answer from him. So that's when his trainer, Alexander Zimin, served them with a crazy excuse for his loss. Apparently, he lost against Huck all because of his body odor. That's right. Povetkin claimed that Huck smelled so bad during the fight that he couldn't focus and felt dizzy from the smell. Zimin added to this story by saying that during the fight, he could notice Alexander's eyes watering from the horrible stench. Even further, his trainer asserted that this was a strategy the German boxer used to cause Povetkin to lose. He insisted that he had seen Japanese fighters using something similar. According to him, some Japanese fighters even lost their licenses for using this smelly tactic to win. Povetkin agreed with everything his trainer said and hasn't addressed the loss since. That's just how it is with these boxers. They don't like digging up past mistakes. And for some professional boxers, the past is final. That's how it was for the Ukrainian boxing sensation, Vladimir Klitschko. While Klitschko's known for being a world heavyweight champion for over a decade, he was once a new kid on the block with 3 losses under his belt that really bothered him, all against Layman Brewster. Those fights really made him seem like he was way out of his depth, and all hope seemed lost for the Ukrainian boxer. To cope with such disappointing losses, Vladimir presented a crazy excuse. He basically threw his cornerman Joe Souza under the bus for all 3 of his losses. The former world heavyweight champion claimed that his corner rubbed too much Vaseline over his body. He claimed that because of the thick layer of Vaseline, his pores were clogged and that he couldn't sweat because of that. I'm not really sure that's how skin works, but Vladimir was pretty much convinced by this idea. And this led him to never work with Souza again. He blamed Souza for his career almost falling apart. Well, that's got to be quite harsh. But nothing can be as hurtful as losing one of the biggest fights and then being accused of being a sore loser. Manny Pacquiao just couldn't convince his fans with his elaborate excuse. In 2015, Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather stepped into the ring together, and it was the fight that everyone had been waiting for. I mean, seriously, this fight was so hyped up that people were willing to pay a fortune just to get their hands on a ticket. When the two finally met, the answer was clear. Mayweather was the better fighter that night.
He goes against the ropes. And now
it's against, and who not to allow himself to go against ropes against.
Mayweather lands another straight right hand.
After the fight, Pacquiao revealed that he had injured his right shoulder during training, and that the injury had been aggravated during the 4th round.
Straight right hand that lands, and Pacquiao gets...
Good body shot by Pacquiao.
Threw out the number.
He underwent surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff shortly after the fight. While some fans were sympathetic to Pacquiao's injury, others were less understanding. There were those who felt that he should have disclosed his injury before the fight so that fans could have been informed, and the expectations for the fight could have been adjusted accordingly. After all, Pacquiao and Mayweather were both vying for the title of the best pound-for-pound boxer in the world, and fans wanted to see them both at their best. On the other hand, some fans argued that Pacquiao's injury was no excuse for his loss. In the end, opinions on Pacquiao's excuse are still divided. But there's one boxer who just became a laughingstock. I'm talking about David Hayes. In 2011, Hayes finally got the chance to face off against Vladimir Klitschko, the dominant heavyweight champion at the time. This was a fight that had been hyped up for years, and fans were expecting an epic showdown between two of the biggest names in boxing.
Just show them who the strong big shot that he can land to change the face of heavyweight boxing. He was closer then with the right hand.
Unfortunately for Hayes, the fight didn't quite live up to the hype. Klitschko secured a dominant points win in typical heavyweight title fight fashion, which was unentertaining, to say the least. But Hayes tried to clear the air. After the fight, Hayes revealed that he was prevented from landing his biggest punches because of a pre-fight injury. Fans were expecting to hear about some kind of serious injury that could have affected his performance. But let's just say the truth was a bit underwhelming. You see, Hayes had broken his little toe before the fight. That's right, a broken little toe. Well, let's just say that fans weren't impressed. To make matters worse, Hayes showed off the injury to the media at the post-fight press conference, which only added insult to injury. He endured years of mockery as a result, with fans and fellow boxers alike making fun of his excuse for losing the fight. And while Hayes didn't admit that his excuse was a silly one, there are some fighters who have decided to own up to it, such as Carl Froch, who agreed that his excuse was ridiculous. Back in 2010, Froch was riding high on an unbeaten streak, but that all came to an end when he faced off against Mikkel Kessler in Denmark. Froch claimed that an interruption to his pre-fight preparation played a big part in his loss, blaming a volcano in Iceland for erupting and spewing out an ash cloud that disrupted flights all over Europe. This included Froch's flight out to Denmark a week before the fight, which was canceled as a result. But Froch wasn't going to let a little thing like a volcanic ash cloud get in the way of his fight. He managed to make it to Denmark via private jet on Wednesday, just 3 days before the fight. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to secure him the win. After Kessler won by unanimous decision, Froch revealed that he'd suffered a perforated eardrum in sparring and also blamed the ash cloud delay for his loss.
And that's it. Decision, all three in favor of the winner and the new WWE.
He even admitted to having a barbecue and eating burgers and fizz pop during the delay. Later on, he admitted that this sounded like a weak argument. But that's just how it is. And that's all we have about all the crazy excuses from boxers after suffering a loss.